Welcome to the Yorkshire Academy of American Football podcast number 7. We wanted to talk tonight to an equipment manufacturer. We realise what it's like being a parent of a child playing American football in the academy. We wanted you to know some of the background of what goes into making the equipment that our children wear when they start to play contact football. So we've invited Cedar Rihani, who's actually an old friend of mine for quite a few years now, and he's the Chief Revenue Officer for a company called Zenith, and they manufacture helmets and shoulder pads for American football. So let's have a chat with Cedar.
Hi, Cedar.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Good to see you again. Long time no see and long time no speak. Fantastic that you've agreed to join us today with the Academy. I really wanted to speak to some equipment suppliers and especially equipment manufacturers about their safety equipment and put our parents' minds at ease and the players' minds at ease and let them know what's coming up in the future. So thanks for agreeing to come and see us. So the first question is, can you give us a brief history, an overview of Zenith, a helmet and shoulder pad manufacturer and apparel manufacturer, a rundown on the history and the background to the company?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. The story is a good one. We were founded in 2006. A gentleman named Vin Ferrara, who was a quarterback at Harvard and also has his medical degree from Columbia University, was experiencing concussions and decided that there had to be a better way to design a helmet. And going all the way back to 2006 and the designs that he incorporated to the very first version of the very first Zenith helmet, those pillars, those technology pillars, live in the products that we have today. They've just evolved and gotten better. Although Vin's not with the company anymore, his legacy lives on through the pillars of design that he established early on. And those three pillars, I can touch on those. They're universally found throughout our helmets. As I mentioned, there's three things. There's a very unique shock matrix on the inside of the helmet. That's number one. Number two is we've taken that shock matrix and decoupled it from the interior of the helmets, which allows us to take on both linear and rotational forces in a very unique way. And then thirdly, and probably the one that most people recognize optically, is the adaptive fit. The way you put on your helmet and the way you take the chin strap and cinch it down gives you a custom fit every time. So those three pillars of technology are in everything that we do today.
Well, that's good. I've got a couple of props lined up here. I wanted to show you, Cedar. Don't be too shocked. All right.
I can see the top already.
Yeah. It's not looking good. We ask our kids to take their head out of the game, and unfortunately, when I was playing, that the head was actually encouraged as a weapon, which is a terrible, awful thing. The inside of the helmet, it gets worse. There's just some hard rubber strips there which are held on by Velcro, and if I pull one out, you can see this not brilliant. I'm squeezing as hard as I can there, and I've got a fairly decent grip, but I'm finding it very difficult there. And I mean, you fast forward now to the helmet that you supplied to my son, which I'm a parent now. Back when I was a kid and I started playing, I really didn't care. I was just throwing myself around the field, but I'm a parent now, so I want to know everything's right. So I can see there the adaptive fit that you were on about on the inside of the helmet.
Yeah.
So when you pull the straps, and that was, remember, I've mentioned this to you before, Cedar, but the first time we did it up properly, I was absolutely blown away. So this method, this quite unique method of how you make the unique fit for them, that's pretty much a Zenith thing, is it?
Yeah, it's tough to see, but the chin strap system, unlike our competitors, the chin strap system runs all the way through the entire helmet and is connected to that shock matrix I described, so that when you do cinch the chin strap and tighten it down, you can really feel that shock matrix come to your head and fit. And you and I have talked about this, but you and I might have the same head size, right? Same circumference. According to the size chart, we might both wear, say, a large, but I'm shaped a little different. I've got a different hairstyle, whatever that may be. When I cinch it shut, it's going to come to my head a little bit. Yeah. I didn't want to say I had hair. You didn't, but it's going to come to my head a little bit differently than it's going to, adapt to yours. So that's really the beauty of this thing. And the players will tell you they feel it when you kind of cinch it shut. You kind of feel that grab you in the occipital piece on the back of the head there.
Hmm. So the science that went into it, that you're saying Vin Ferreira's background as an MD really, really shaped the way through. Were you telling me before that he'd received some concussions himself as a player?
Yeah, I'm not an expert in this category, but that's my understanding. Yes, that he did have some issues himself as a player throughout his career, and this was of interest to him to pursue.
Absolutely, yeah. So we talked about the shock and the decouple and the adaptation. You've come into this marketplace. Let's talk a little bit. You're the chief revenue officer, obviously responsible for the commercial side of things. You've come into this marketplace. You're quite a new player, aren't you? Has that been difficult for Zenith?
Yeah, I mean, challenging, I would say, and it's been exciting. I think the messaging is the most exciting part. Being able to tell our tech story to those who are and still playing today is very exciting for us. I think the challenge is that we are dealing with a very traditional group, right, and of athletes who've grown up with great brands their whole life, and the coaches have been used to other brands. So our mission is to spread the word and talk about the technology and the why behind what we do. That is the real differentiator for us. It's been challenging, but it's been fun, and every year we're gaining more and more momentum.
Oh, it's good to see, and you see they're not new players anymore, but I can remember Under Armour coming along and first noticing the logo on their stuff, and I've seen the same thing with Zenith now, coming up with challenging the big players, and actually it seems to be that particularly in America, maybe to a slightly lesser extent here, but people are prepared to embrace these new guys so long as they're innovating. So you're clearly innovating. Tell us a little bit more. We spoke about this previously as well, because obviously we've known each other for quite a long time now, but your connections with the UK, that's run from a company perspective. You're working now with a company called Rihani, and they're working on an exciting new helmet for you.
Yeah, I mean, Rihani Labs is our material science partner. Coincidentally, they're based out of the UK, so they're not far from you in London. I've actually, because I knew we'd be talking about this, did have a couple slides I'd love to share with you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Give me 1 second here. This is a slide deck I've used in previous discussions with folks, but I think it briefly will tell us, kind of show us what we're up to with the new Shadow XR. So as you mentioned, Rihani is the material science partner we're working with. They're not helping us necessarily with the details of the helmet itself, but more with the material that we're incorporating into the Shadow XR. Your son, for example, that helmet you were just holding was the Shadow. This is the evolution of the Shadow, same silhouette, but it's with the Rihani material inside. So you'll notice a very, very specific castle geometry that we've taken this material and formed into within the Shadow XR. So in and of itself, it's a very waterproof, lightweight, very durable material, but in this castle geometry has gone an extra long way to help us manage energy and control the energy and the impact absorption. So when we take a peek at the inside of the Shadow XR in this slide, you'll notice that the Rihani material in the castle geometry is placed exactly where our traditional shocks would be placed. And this slide, I know it's got a lot on it, but it's really a visual aid to show how Rihani material is taking on the linear impacts as well as the rotational impacts, which are very critical when looking at the big picture. It's not just the big linear hits, but it's also the smaller rotational impacts that as players we take over and over and over throughout a game. Everybody is kind of focused on the big hits and those that seem to be the highlight reel moments. But the data shows us that the rotational impacts over time have a big long-term effect. So this is super important for us to manage and energy control using Rihani material. And then I think one of my favorite ones is this quick demo. On the left-hand side, we have a pane of glass covered by material that some of our competitors use in their helmets. And on the right-hand side is the same illustration with Rihani material on that same pane of glass with this ball drop. Let's see.
Oh,
Yeah. And then on the right-hand side, same thing with the Rihani material. See, it
right.
stops on a dime, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, it's absorbing it, isn't it? It's absorbing the impact and protecting what's underneath it. Right.
That's right. So yeah, just a couple slides I had pulled up just to kind of tell the story a little bit better. But we're very excited about this relationship. We're very excited about the results we're seeing both in the lab and on the field, and excited to roll this out this year.
And the location of the shock impactors, how is that decided? Is that something that's done in conjunction with scientists, medical people?
Yeah, we've got a whole team of designers and engineers that really put a lot of energy into the location, the size, the width. Different sizes helmets have different locations. Youth versus varsity helmets have a slightly different allocation of Rihani material in different places. So yes, absolutely. Those impact tests are done with that specifically in mind.
And the same with the shape helmet, the shell of the helmet. I mean, the difference between this and the helmet I showed you earlier, which I first started playing with, which was just almost an adapted motorcycle helmet. This is, in fact, this resembles some of the modern motorcycle helmets. But so the venting and etc. How much of that is a marketing decision, and how much of that is a medical decision?
Yeah, I think it's a healthy split. We certainly want to be top of the line on both of those. For sure, it's a recognizable silhouette, and we get a lot of compliments on the aesthetics for sure. But 100%, we're taking both into consideration. And one thing to note there is that the Shadow and the Shadow XR have a new unique polymer material, which has proven to be even better than the old shells that we've had, the polycarbonate shells that we've used in the past, and that many of our competitors continue to use. So excited about that as well, as we've talked about.
Oh, so you're innovating on the shell material as well?
That's right. That's right.
Right, this is sounding like an infomercial now. I'm trying to...
Yeah, checks in the mail.
Yeah. No, I'm genuinely fascinated in this. Like I say, you know, when you become a parent, and when you send your son out onto the field or your daughter, and they're wearing the helmets and the pads, and it is something that you look at the game from a brand new perspective. Let's put it that way, Cedar. And so you're working as the chief revenue officer. Who are you talking to? I mean, how does the business model of a Zenith work? Are you talking mainly to high schools? Are they your big revenue? Is it the high schools? Is it the colleges? How much comes from the NFL teams?
Yeah, all of the above. I mean, obviously there's far bigger numbers as you get to the younger age groups. So the youth market is, in here in the U.S. is considered, you know, something like 6 years up to 14, say. The varsity market for us is really high school, which is, you know, 9th grade through 12th grade. And then certainly the highest profile is the college and the NFL folks. But in terms of volume, yeah, absolutely, that 18 and under crowd is really our biggest market for sure. And as you guys know, in the UK, slightly different age groups, but similar in structure.
And one of the other things I wanted to ask you about, which was fascinating over the last couple of years, was the Virginia Tech safety register, and then that morphed into the NFL's version of that, which took it almost a step further. Funnily enough, it seems to me from the outside, I don't know, you're the insider, but it seemed to me that one of the manufacturers actually dropped away almost as a cause of coming at the rock bottom of that, and no longer manufacturing helmets. So how much of an impact was there on your industry by that Virginia Tech original study and then the subsequent studies thereafter?
Yeah, it's a topic that comes up on a regular basis. And I think it's healthy for us to have third parties that are kind of monitoring and trying to quantify the quality and the protective elements of what we're doing. But you'll hear a lot of our engineers and innovators on the inside, the design team, talk about, yes, that's important. The test is important. And we always have traditionally scored very, very well there. In fact, we've never produced a product that wasn't 5 stars on the Virginia Tech study, which I'm very proud of. But it's not only about the test, it's really about on-field performance. So we take a lot of athlete insight. We take a lot of performance on the field into consideration. It's tough because a test like that is going to be in a lab. It's going to be at a certain temperature. It's going to be at a certain speed and velocity. And it's tough because it doesn't really encompass all things. So fit does matter, for example, right? So how well a helmet fits you goes a long way in its protective elements actually functioning properly for you, the individual athlete. So you could have the Cadillac of all Cadillacs, if you will, the safest helmet, quote unquote, on the market. But if it doesn't fit you properly, it's not doing its job. So the adaptive fit and these types of things that don't necessarily get a score on a test are critically important and are a big piece of what our designers are taking into account.
And just finally, I've noticed that you've moved now into apparel. Is that how much of a move has that been for the company? Is this something that is this a new direction, complementary? How is that going to go for you?
Yeah, it's not a new direction. At the core of who we are, we're always going to be helmets and shoulder pads, and that's our passion and our skill set. But there's been a big demand. Our brand is growing. Our brand is an exciting, fresh brand that athletes are drawn to. So there's been a demand to have apparel on the field, apparel in your day-to-day life, almost streetwear, if you will. I see that continuing to expand. We're working on some exciting things there, but it's certainly a supplemental and a nice add-on to what we're already doing as the brand and the portfolio is growing.
No, that's good to hear. Listen, Cedar, it's been absolutely brilliant catching up with you. We don't chat enough, so this has been great. I look forward to seeing you again soon. I want to thank you so much. I want to well, I'll tell you what. Before we go, just a little insight. What's going on in Michigan? Which is where you are now. How's the lockdown affecting you guys over there?
Yeah, as if you're following the U.S. side much, we are in one of those hot spots on the U.S. side among some other states. So I'm proud of the way we've handled it. At least in Michigan, we've really done a good job of locking down and trying to flatten the curve, if you will, and we're seeing those positive effects now. So it's been challenging, but no different than anything anyone else in the world is going through. It's been challenging, but I think we've, as a family, on a personal level, tried to make the best of it and learn some new skills while being in confinement and spend time.
How's the juggling going?
Thank you for asking. It's going well. I'll send you my YouTube. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. If you look at it through a positive, optimistic lens, I think this has been a good thing despite the challenges.
That's brilliant. Well, listen, you take care. Please stay safe, Cedar. Love to the family, and thanks for coming on with us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.